Perfect. Moving on, question number 3 comes in from Stu. Hi there, Stu. Thanks for being part of the amazing WiggyWam community and for putting your question across to us here. So Stu asks, if you were to do a refurb on a property, would you fit an air source heat pump? I know the cost of installation would be more than a gas boiler, but surely over time it's going to work out cheaper. If mains gas wasn't available, it would make the decision. Sorry, if mains gas wasn't available, it would make the decision easier perhaps, but I'm just wondering if it's worth the investment, bearing in mind the stricter requirements on property EPCs in the future. Okay, Stu, well, that's a great question. Thanks for sending it through to us. This is an interesting question, looking at an air source heat pump in terms of heating the property, and whether or not there's a trade-off in terms of a little bit more upfront investment in the actual technology of putting that into the property and all the installation work, which I understand is quite substantial, or just going down the usual route of a gas central heating boiler and radiators, etc. Now, I'm just going back quite a few years now, Stu. I looked into this quite a bit when I was a surveyor, because when I just a little bit of background, when I qualified as a surveyor, one of my dissertations that I wrote was around the whole idea of SIPS panels for building houses, and the point of me mentioning that was all about this idea of renewable technologies and higher levels of insulation, and the fact that houses could literally be built in a factory and then bolted together on site. So panels would be built in a factory. There'd be in essence, a big slab of insulation between two pieces of plywood, almost, for want of a better description, and then those would be transported to site, built. You could build a house in a day, and then obviously you would put the brickwork skin on the outside, put the roof on, etc. And we also looked at a number of different technologies that would go in there, such as solar, such as wind power, and also ground source heat pumps, and similar sort of technology. And at the time, although this is going back quite a few years now, at the time, in my view, the technology wasn't quite there to make it worth the overall investment, in my humble opinion. And I think I haven't heard a lot of great things about air source heat pumps in terms of complications, in terms of overall running costs, in terms of, shall we say, the difference between the marketing literature, i.e. this is a great technology and this is what it will do for you and this is how much it will save on your energy bills, etc., versus the actual practical reality of installing that sort of a system in a UK-based property. And as a consequence, my gut reaction, Stu, would be to weigh up a number of different things as part of answering this question for you. First of all, are you doing the property to live in yourself, or are you doing it for a buy-to-let or a flip, for example? If it was a property you were doing for yourself, I would spend a lot more time on answering this question about whether or not it's worth this upfront cost to put this air source heat pump in versus the overall running cost. But from what I'm hearing, you're probably going to spend a lot more on additional heating during the colder months than you are during the summer months, and that could be a detriment to you in the future. Okay, so that would be the sort of first approach I'd look at, is whether or not this refurb is for something I'm going to live in, or whether it's going to be something that I'm going to flip on or rent out. And quite honestly, when you have these sort of new technologies coming in, a lot of people aren't really familiar with them. So you kind of need somebody who's a little bit passionate about what you're introducing into the property in order for it to make sense to them, and then go, oh yeah, okay, I can see the benefit of having that. And the reason I mention that is because it might affect future resale value, because if your buyers are coming in and they're looking at this property and going, okay, air source heat pump, not sure what that is, and then they go to a search engine, start looking online, looking at reading reviews on forums and what have you, they're probably going to come across the same sort of information that I've been exposed to, which probably looks more negative than positive, if I'm honest. And as a consequence, they're going to say, well, okay, there's an additional cost now for me to replace that technology with a gas boiler, et cetera, et cetera. Now, with an eye to the future, I understand that the requirements around EPCs have now been put back by 3 years. So I think that there was a requirement that in 2025, every rented property needed to be at an EPC level of, I believe it was C or above, right? And that has now been put back by 3 years because the government are worried about not being able to hit target and effectively the additional devastating impact that would have on the UK housing stock, which is already shrinking because a lot of landlords are getting out of the game. Okay, and so the requirements around gas boilers, there's been a lot of sort of hype and speculation and talk about gas boilers being banned in properties, and then we're all going to move towards electric boilers, and somehow electric boilers are going to be far more efficient than running on gas. Again, not quite sure what that's all about, but these are the sorts of things that are possibly changing. And whether or not we do get to a point where properties are more energy efficient, I think the passive house standard, which was, I'm not sure whether it was Swedish or German technology or that created the name passive house, but they got to a point where, you know, a property maintained its overall temperature from a mixture of solar gain and also from the heat of the bodies of the people that were occupying it. And I think if you can hit that standard, then all well and good. But I think the practicalities are, Stu, that it comes down to the issues of maintaining air tightness within a building structure when you're either doing a new build or in your case as you're doing a refurb. And when you're working with older style properties to do a refurb, there's a very high chance that you won't quite get the air tightness that you need to achieve these sorts of higher passive house standards. And that can create problems in terms of drafts, in terms of an increased number of air changes, which leads to a decreased effectiveness on things like your air source heat pump. So I know that's probably been a bit of a long-winded and meandering answer, if you like, Stu, but I just wanted to share a little bit of background to let you know that, you know, this is something that I have looked at quite intensively over the years. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I'd love it if technology would be there from a point of view that we could all heat our homes via solar, and we'd all have our hot water from solar, and we'd all have electricity from solar, and we wouldn't need to plug into the grid, and we could all be effectively off grid. I think, you know, that holds amazing promise, but I just don't think the technology is there at this moment in time. Maybe in 10 years' time, it might be a completely different story. I don't know. But as I say, this technology we were looking at it's almost 20 years ago now, and it wasn't quite there then. I still don't think it's quite there now, but I could be wrong. If somebody else has got a different view on this, if somebody else has employed this technology with great benefits, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to do like a bit of a grand designs kind of video tour, and you can tell me how well your air source heat pumps and other technologies are working in the property, because I think that's going to be something that, you know, hopefully will grow and develop in the future. So hope that answers that question for you, Stu. Thanks ever so much for sending it in to us, and let's move on to the next question. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of today's webinar. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, as always. We're here the same time, same place every week, doing this, answering your property questions as much as we possibly can in the time that we have available. So you can send your questions through to us via email, which is happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. That's happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. You can also go to our website, which is wiggywam.co.uk. That's wiggywam.co.uk. You can set up a free profile on WiggyWam. You can access an entire catalogue now of blogs, broadcast, news articles, all sorts of things that can help you with your moving journey, including an entire video training suite put together by myself that will guide you through the entire process of finding, viewing, offering on, and buying your next property. Okay, that's an incredible amount of value that we've crammed into that video training suite there. You can also send your questions to us via Twitter. Twitter handle is @WiggyWam_UK. So that's @WiggyWam_UK. And we'll look forward to answering your questions on a future webinar very soon. And if there's anything else that we can do to help or support you in your moving journey, please do let us know. We're here to help. We're here to serve. We're here to do our very best to look after you in your moving journey. And we'll look forward to seeing you on a future webinar very soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me today, and bye for now.